enough. I can't hear y'all. How you doing, Brunswick County? Yeah, that's what I want to hear. I'm really sorry that I'm late, but I didn't come empty-handed. So I do have some stickers for my Eastern North Carolina Democrats. I left them in my car, but I will get them before everybody leaves this room. Thank you for packing this room tonight. I was shaking up here when Shelly was giving her talk because I'm just like, wow, it's intimidating to be in front of such a large crowd. So thank you all for coming out tonight. And for showing up to hear me give a little bit of the spiel. And I just want to give I want everyone to give a big round of applause to your Brunswick County Democratic Party chair, everybody. It is one hell of a thankless job to be a county party chair, and I'm so grateful for Shelly for taking the lead in Brunswick County, and a big thank you to Eric Terashima, who was out here beforehand. I don't know if he's in the crowd tonight, I'll be honest with you. There's so many of y'all, I can't see. But I just want to give a big recognition to him as well for all the work that he put in last cycle. I know it's hard out here in Brunswick County, to be honest with you. But I want y'all to know that I'm from a place that looks just like it. And I tell people that because I know that a lot of people don't understand my backstory or maybe know a lot about it, but I'm from a tiny town called Roxborough. It's in Person County, which geographically is about an hour north of Raleigh. It's an R+20 county. And I thought my entire life growing up there, I needed to get out of Roxborough because I had too big of ideas, and I was just telling the news outside, I was like, the two things that I got told when I was young that you didn't talk about at the dinner table, religion and politics. And two things I really like to talk about as a young person, religion and politics. And Roxborough looked at me and they said, you got a little too big of ideas to be in this county, Anderson. You need to kick rocks and get on and do something else. Because, I grew up in Person County with a gay best friend. Someone who didn't feel like that he was able to come out and be out and identify and really, make his presence known in a community like that because people were persecuting him because of it, right? He got bullied when he was a kid growing up there, and it was something that for us, and for me, it was really hard to watch. I had friends that were in interracial relationships, and people looked at them weird when they were out in public, right? They still gave that stare that you're like, I know you're judging them, and you might be silently doing it, but you're still freaking doing it, right? And that's still something that we see in rural communities across North Carolina that is still so prevalent. And it's not just in rural North Carolina, much as our urban communities like to make us think that it is so, right? Yeah. Racism is prevalent everywhere in North Carolina right now. And it's something that as a party, we have to come to terms with. Because part of why we are not getting Democrats out to vote and our base out to vote is the fact that we're not recognizing what our own party has to come to terms with too. And that's the fact that it's a struggle right now to be a black or brown person in North Carolina. And I know that I'm talking to a room full of folks and sometimes half of y'all are like, Anderson, this doesn't really apply to me that much, but it does. Because when we look at Sherry Beasley losing an election by 134,000 votes, when we look at Joe Biden losing an election by 74,000 votes in 2020, we're losing on the margins every time. And it's because Democrats do not feel like our party values them, hears them, is speaking to them, and is actually getting out to them. And that's what this party is going to do in 2024, y'all.
Good.
Yeah. We're going to get out across every county in North Carolina and make sure that folks in every community know that the Democratic Party is there to help them, is there to be there for them, and is there to answer their issues and their concerns about what's going on in their own backyards right now. Because it ain't good in North Carolina, y'all, what's happening right now at the local level. Let's just be real with ourselves. The Biden-Harris administration brought millions of dollars of investment into communities all across North Carolina. They're the first administration in history to ever give money directly to communities. Because do you think that if Raleigh had their choice of where they were going to put money, that they would have looked at Leland and they would have said, yeah, we're going to send money to Brunswick County? No, they would not, right? They'd be sending it somewhere else, Hillsborough, Chapel Hill, somewhere else that's not here, because they don't see the potential of a place like Brunswick County, right? The Biden-Harris administration said, but y'all are gonna. Y'all are gonna. And we're going to give them the money to let that community decide what they want to do and how their future is going to happen and it's going to become, right? So they sent city council and county commissioners millions of dollars. And if y'all don't know where those millions of dollars went from the American Rescue Plan funding and the bipartisan infrastructure bill funding, I suggest every single one of you visit your city council meetings and your county commissioner meetings and we get to finding out. Because that's Democratic money, everybody. That's money that got down from the federal level that's coming into our communities to help build out a better future for our communities going forward. And that's what we need to be talking about, folks, right now. People keep asking me every day, they're like, damn, Anderson, why are you a Democrat, right? You're 25 years old, and like, what have they really done for us at this moment? And I tell people, I'm like, I'm from rural North Carolina. This is the first administration in 50 years that's looking at a place that where I grew up and saying you deserve to not have to leave there in order to make a better future for yourself there. It's telling all of our kids and our future generations to say you don't just have to grow up here, you can grow old here too. And there's an option for you. And I know that a lot of you maybe aren't from North Carolina originally either. And you also deserve that opportunity to make anywhere in North Carolina a home and a place where you may not have grown up, but you are going to grow old there. And you want to make it a better place. And you want to make it a place where your family can grow old there too. And that's what this is about. This party needs to be about. Two of the programs that I've been talking to folks a lot about right now that are immediate relief, because also part of the things that I keep hearing from folks is that, Anderson, people aren't turning out to vote right now because they feel like their votes don't matter, right? They're not seeing that immediate relief. The Biden-Harris administration are doing amazing things right now, y'all. New Deal level era things in our government at this moment in time. And folks don't realize it, right? Because it's not hitting the ground. I had a man come and knock on my door in Goodwin House, and I'm sorry for anyone who might have heard this story, but I love to tell it, so I'm going to tell it here in Brunswick County too. And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you Anderson Clayton?" I said, "Yeah, who's asking? Who's here?" And he said, "You are the last person I could think to come to for help." He said, "But I saw your name on something," and he said, "So I'm here." He said, "I'm trying to get Joe Biden's $35 a month insulin. My wife is paying $500 a month for it." I said, "Ooh, I heard that good brand name, Joe Biden's $35 a month insulin. That means we're doing something right somewhere." Yeah. But then I also heard your wife is still paying $500 a month for it, which means we are not doing something right somewhere else, right? Yeah. And so I said, "You know what? I don't know. So we'll come on into Goodwin House and let's figure this out." Goodwin House is the NCDP headquarters in Raleigh. And so he comes in, and there was someone on my staff that actually had a person in their family that's on insulin. And she said, "Is your wife on Medicare right now? Because that is one of the qualifications to get $35 insulin is Medicare, is being on it." The Inflation Reduction Act that got passed, that I bet no one in here can maybe name something that came out of it, to be honest with you. If you can, raise your hand. Inflation Reduction Act, y'all know one thing that came out? Oh, yep, Richard, what came out of it?
Well, first off, there's money that's going to be spent on rural inclusion in high-speed internet.
That was the infrastructure and the infrastructure bill, but you're almost right on that. Inflation Reduction Act, something completely different.
They actually added funds to that.
Oh, okay. There you go, Richard. That's beautiful then. I did not know that. So thank you for telling me something about the Inflation Reduction Act. Yes, ma'am.
Free vaccines for seniors, Shingrix, and all the COVID vaccines.
Free vaccines for seniors. What was your name? Marjorie is saying free vaccines for seniors. Thank you, Marjorie. Anybody else? Inflation Reduction Act?
I got a question. What about water and sewer for a lot of rural towns that don't have water and sewer?
That was part of the American Rescue Plan Act was part of that. Yes, sir. Anybody else? Inflation Reduction Act. Anything that came from it? Yes, sir.
Solar energy.
Solar energy. Yes. Well, part of what also came from the Inflation Reduction Act was lowering the cost of insulin to $35 a month, right? And when I go back to that and people say, "Well, why can't we be getting it right now?" And I'm like, because only one drug company brought down the price of insulin with the Inflation Reduction Act, Eli Lilly. So if your doctor is not prescribing you the Eli Lilly version of insulin right now, you're not getting $35 a month insulin. And so part of what's educating about this and what we need to educate seniors on everywhere right now is that if you're on Medicare and you're not on Eli Lilly, you're probably not getting $35 a month insulin, and we need to help you fix that. We need to make sure that you know about this program right now because it could directly benefit you. The other one that I always like to talk to people about too, because it's something that has specifically impacted places like Brunswick County, rural broadband access, right? The Affordable Connectivity Program is a program right now that is offering $30 a month internet access to anyone that makes 200% below the poverty line. It is fully subsidized by the federal government at this moment in time. 200% below the poverty line means that, you are on SNAP benefits, Medicaid, Medicare, your child is on free and reduced lunch. I tell people jokingly, like, in other words, you're poor, and that's okay, because we need to talk about it more, and make that something that we are actually educating people on, what services or you qualify for when you meet a certain threshold in North Carolina right now, because that's important. And the Biden-Harris administration, as part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, negotiated, again, with internet service providers for them to provide a tier that is $30 a month for low-income folks. And so it's a fully free opportunity that a lot of people are not taking full advantage of right now, especially in places like Brunswick County. So it helps with the aspect of actually affording internet. I know a lot of you are looking at me going, Anderson, we don't even have the access to it though. That's what we're missing first, baby. What you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, they're working on that too. That is also part of the infrastructure bill that's coming out. That is just going to be a little bit longer of a road for us to go down. But folks that are struggling with the actual affordability of internet do have the ability to get it right now. So thinking about programs like $30 a month or $30 a month broadband, $35 a month insulin, and how are we actually in communities right now promoting that? Because it's direct relief to people's pocketbooks that we could be giving. And those are two programs that I'm really passionate about because they impact very specific populations in North Carolina that we need to be reaching out to at this moment in time especially. I'm on a little bit of a soapbox, and I love to actually have an interactive time and take questions from a crowd, so I want to be able to do that. But first, I also want to give someone else a shout out. I was talking about former county chairs in the room, and I'm looking at Liz Guinan right here, and I'm like, Liz is the queen of Chatham County last year, y'all, so a round of applause for all the work that she did, helping get Leader Robert Reed elected again. Happy to see her down here in Brunswick County, too. Y'all got an arm and a horse with you. But questions from the crowd, anybody? Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you and great to see your energy. I work with an amazing group here, our communications team, that are just doing fantastic work. But my question and my problem is that we, like the other side, they get on message and it's like something goes right into their veins and they've all got the same word. We need to get on message all together. We need help. We need to connect because we've got the right messages, and exactly like you're saying, they're not getting out. So I want to know how we can connect with the whole state and beyond to get our message out. I create multimedia for the communications team, and I've been doing this for decades. I've got so much experience, and I want to use that to figure out how we can get this message out. I need help from the state. We need to, when I say help, I mean in terms of how do we message, what's the best way. Let's get on the same page.
Yeah. Thank you for what you do, Laura. It's a thing that I hear from a lot of folks of like, the Democratic message sucks, Anderson. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I actually argue with folks, I'm like, I don't think we've got a messaging problem so much as we got a showing up problem. And to be honest with y'all, we've stopped doing it. A lot of Democrats have stopped doing it, especially in places like Brunswick County, which is why I think I could get a room this big to come out and see someone like me as y'all like, oh, Riley's paying attention to Brunswick County finally. It feels nice. And I just want to let y'all know, I'm going to be back in Brunswick County a lot more because I want every candidate to come through Brunswick County this year and make sure they're out here talking to folks and not just coming here to fundraise, but also coming here to actually hear y'all and see y'all and get in the community with y'all, because that's something that we need to do as statewide candidates, because I think that our message is good. And part of what we're talking about right now with Josh Stein saying we need to raise the wage in North Carolina, the minimum wage and teacher wages right now. That's a message that we're talking about. Well, I've said it over and over again, but there's not a teacher shortage in this state whatsoever. It's a wage shortage in this state. And the Republican legislature sitting on a $3 billion surplus right now is the reason why that exists, right? Yeah. It's on them. And that's the strong message that I want us to deliver this year, and what I think that we are going to see coming down from a potential governor candidate and also our lieutenant governor and everyone else is a very strong message on the economy, on helping and protecting our public education, because we have always been the party of public education, ensuring that we are respecting teachers, but also empowering them to do their jobs effectively, which means letting them do their jobs right. And it's something that we have to talk more about, is the fact that what's going on in the classroom right now is also the fact that the state, the superintendent, and it's exciting because also we have a superintendent candidate that just announced like last week, the week before that, Katie Eddings. She's from Robinson County originally, for any of y'all that don't know her. But I'm really excited because southeastern North Carolina might actually get some good representation on our Council of State this year if we do our jobs correctly for her. So excited about that. But also on the point of messaging, we just hired a new comms director too. His name is Tommy Maddox. I'm really excited. He's actually going to start going around on the trail with me here soon and getting out to counties so that y'all can see his face and that he can see y'all's, because he is also really determined to help counties create a messaging structure that also works for their individual counties. Because I know that y'all...
Will he connect with us?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, he'd be happy to. And I'll give Shelly the contact information so y'all can get connected. But Tommy used to be working, he is from North Carolina originally. He's been working on the Hill for the last 8 years with the House Agricultural Committee. He worked for Jennifer Wexton's campaign, and Jennifer Wexton is in Virginia, ran a really, really competitive House campaign, and so she's been in a district that was rural, suburban, and urban, which I think also really matched kind of the population areas that we're looking at in North Carolina, and so I'm expecting him to help us really come out with some good messaging too that's going to be overall. But I do really like what I see from my statewide candidates right now about what they're putting out, and is going to be the focal point of what our messaging is going to be going into 2024 too, y'all. So yeah, sorry that was long-winded, but thank you for the question. Anybody else got one? Yes.
Am I supposed to stand?
You can, yeah. Everybody can hear you if you can project.
I understand all the great things that the Democrats are doing, but I also understand that if I'm living in a rural area and I go to the grocery store and I'm seeing bread at $7, I'm seeing eggs at $12, I'm seeing milk at $5. People, when they're hungry and they have a limited income, even if they have the subsidies, this really speaks to them because it's on a level that everybody understands. And unfortunately, I've only seen these prices rise. And so I really wish there was something that, I don't know if it's because we're being screwed by the vendors but this is something that really, if you're a mother with 4 kids and a husband, I mean, food feeds your stomach, feeds your brain, and it's something very basic.
Yeah, no, I think inflation and prices going up is something where I think about it in the National Democratic Party standpoint of like, it's hard right now for average people to understand what the Biden administration is doing, right? And I think a lot of it is because it's building infrastructure and it's building something that is set on looking at a 50-year time span from now. And we are the party of the future in a lot of ways too, from what people have described. And I really do believe that what the messaging that I'm also getting now from Josh is, because he's heard that too along the trail. And I think that just to be honest with you, we are going to hear a change in message of people starting to talk about lowering prices, cutting taxes for the middle class. That's something that I heard him say last night that I think is really important. But I know that we want to get back to helping that issue. But I do think a lot of that is corporate greed too in some ways of inflation going up. And we have to be able to acknowledge that while also helping explain that. And I don't necessarily have the best, I feel like, way to yet. Maybe our comms and our messaging team can help us do that somewhat as well. And if y'all have ideas on the ground, be happy to hear them as well.
I got one.
Yes, sir. Richard, up here in the front.
One, the fundamental issue is that corporate governance and the investment elites, when it comes to the decision at a corporate level, whether to pass the pain of higher labor costs, which means lower profits, who do they pass it on to? Do they pass it on to their shareholders? No.
Absolutely not.
They pass it on to their customers. And what I get frustrated by is I really believe that if the Democratic Party doesn't pound on the economic message, I believe everything else in terms of the social message, I get it. We got an economy that's growing at 2.6% GDP quarter over quarter, 3.5% unemployment, 4% wage growth quarter over quarter, okay? Ironically, one of the reasons we have inflation is because the average worker has more money in their pocket. What do? They spend it. More demand, supply doesn't go up, takes time, cost goes up. And what we're seeing is inflation is coming down because that balance between the increased wage the productive worker has in their pocket is now being matched by the ability to supply it. And that's why you drive around Brunswick County, you drive around anywhere, what do you see? We're hiring, okay? And as long as those signs are up, we ought to be pounding away at that message. One of the reasons the Republicans have shifted to a, LGBTQ trans cultural message is because they have figured out that if they try and win on the economic message, they're going to lose. They're not stupid. And I don't see organically, even from national or state, that kind of, we ought to be, and we ought to get the messaging right. The wonderful thing about Republican messaging, I can give it to you in 6 words. Less government, lower taxes, more freedom. Who wouldn't sign up for that? We need to have that same 6 words. Enlighten governance, help citizens, lead better lives. Okay, 7. Okay?
Richard, I mean, I think you might have done it.
All right. So anyway, that's not really a question.
No, I appreciate it.
So anyway.
I hand you my soapbox any day. Yes, sir.
Okay, what kind of plans do we have to get that message, that kind of message out across Brunswick County?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do about it?
I'm hoping that some of y'all are going to get out and knock some doors in Brunswick County, make some phone calls in Brunswick County, and get active in Brunswick County, to be honest with you. Because the only way that I think we do deliver a message like that, I mean, to be honest with you, we didn't motivate people last election cycle by putting it up on their television screens, did we? Sherry Beasley did not motivate folks by every single ad that was up there, and boy, did she have them, right?
She did.
Yeah, she did. And I'm just saying, I mean, we got to get back out in communities again. I was in Charlotte yesterday at Charlotte Pride. We registered over 150 new people up there yesterday. A lot of them were Democrats, to be honest with you. And so when people look at you and go, man, young people are unaffiliating, and I'm like, yeah, because unaffiliated groups are who's registering them to vote right now. Like, nonpartisan organizations are out there doing that. Like, the Democratic Party needs to be out there doing that everywhere we can. Every festival that we can be showing up in. How I'm personally taking care of that is that the state party has now raised $2.3 million as of the 1st of August, and so we are going to keep going with that. My plan is to hopefully be able to put year-round organizing in the sense of 14 regional field directors on the ground, one per congressional district, in order to be able to model what the state of Michigan has done. The state party tried it in 2021, and it was not as successful as it needed to be honest with y'all, but that was because we did not have the funding for it. And so a lot of that is getting early capital in the door this year for us to be able to actually have a strategic organizing program that is separated from the coordinated campaign, works with them, but focuses on down ballot races, because one of the things that we are really looking at is the fact that Sherry Beasley won 54 House districts that we won 49 of last year. 48 when the she who shall not be named switched parties on our asses, to be honest with y'all. So, I mean, think about that for a second. All of those races being lost by less than 500 votes. And they were where we needed to actually have battleground support for those state house members or those candidates in those battleground counties. And so part of that is ensuring that we have good strategic county parties in those battleground counties this year, and that we also have an organizing presence across those districts to ensure that we're making sure the margins are getting out to vote, because that is what we missed in the last cycle. I do expect, I'll get you in just a second, ma'am. I do expect Joe Biden to also be playing very heavily in North Carolina this year. I don't know when that time frame is going to look like, just to be quite honest with everybody in this room. But they are putting ads out for the RNC debate. If y'all saw, Raleigh and Charlotte media markets are getting ads for when the GOP debate is supposed to be happening. So I'm looking at that as a good sign that they're investing heavily in that in North Carolina already. And I've also had really, really good interactions with the DNC so far about that too. So I'm going to go to this woman right here, and then the woman in the green in the back.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I read recently that the percentage of Gen Z voters is increasing relative to, despite what you see in this room, senior voters. What are we going to do specifically to get them engaged and actually out to vote? Is it a program or what kind of things do you have planned?
So the 3 auxiliaries that the state party has right now for the youth arm are the teen Democrats, the young Democrats, and the college Democrats. And I'm really excited because the youth auxiliaries this year are actually all 3 led by young black men. And that is part of a demographic of our party that we have been losing in a lot of capacities, and something where we are trying to really re-engage young black people, especially on our HBCU campuses this year. HBCU turnout was the lowest it had been since 2010 in North Carolina last cycle. And that was partly because of COVID, right? Not a lot of students were registering to vote on campus. That was also partly because A&T is one of the most gerrymandered campuses throughout the entire state, or entire country, I mean. With a line going straight through it, you've got 5,000 students on one side of the line and 5,000 students on the other side of the line. And so a lot of those folks knowing where to go vote and everything like that was confusing for them on election day. And so ensuring that we have folks in chapters of our college Dems at every single one of these campuses. Recently, if y'all are following, voter ID is a new implemented thing in North Carolina, right? Unfortunately, y'all can boo voter ID. Boo. Bad voter ID. But what was interesting about that is when that came out, right, the 2018 case said that student IDs could not be valid IDs unless they had an expiration date on them, right? And the state legislature, or the Supreme Court, when they brought that ruling back in, they gave state institutions 2 weeks in order to file to get their student IDs valid or to count as valid IDs in this election cycle. There are 106 college campuses and universities throughout North Carolina, for anyone that did not know that. 56 of them ended up applying to get their student IDs considered valid IDs for the 2023 election, which means they will roll over into 2024. And the College Democrats of North Carolina are the ones that helped get all of those universities to file for that. Yeah. It was a very big project, and it was a very cool thing to see these young people go after it. I mean, they called every single one of the campuses. They found volunteers to call through the HBCUs, and they said now through December, they're going after every college that did not sign up for it and that did not get these IDs validated. Partly of that was because they didn't have a student on that campus that they could find to lobby their administration to help them do that.
Brunswick Community College is not on that list.
I saw that the other day too. A lot of our community colleges are not on that list.
How about
And so,
UNCW?
yeah, all of the 17 or the 16 institutions throughout the UNC system did get on there. We made sure of that. So all the 6 HBCUs that are in the UNC system did that are public, but we did still have some private universities that we need to get them on board with. Albemarle, for some reason, community college was like, no, our students don't do that. And I'm like, yes, they do. They vote. Every student's going to vote this year. So that is also part of the strategy.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
First, I want to thank you for who you are, because I think you're an absolute inspiration. You know, you being a young person, just like she was just saying about young people, because when I talked to them before the polling, that was one of the issues they said. How do they know the difference between these 2 old white men, and how, you know, and we're just not enthusiastic. But when I've listened to the other states, pro-choice is a big issue. I don't think we talk about it enough. And when I'm working with some of the Democratic groups, people come up to me, and I think it's a Fox News thing, but they talk about immigration a lot. And they go, what are you as a Democrat doing for immigration? So I really think it's a Fox News, but it seems to weigh heavily on their plate.
You know, I'd look at somebody and say that y'all afraid of someone coming up from South Carolina? What do you think about immigration? I'll be honest, sometimes, like, we were at the Person County, my home county, tried to ban a book recently. And y'all, I about had a moment. I said, there ain't no way the backyard of the state party chair of the Democratic Party is about to ban a fucking book. Like, So I'm sitting there on a Monday afternoon driving myself home so I can go to this library board meeting because they didn't call it a special thing. And the Rainbow Parade book is trying to be banned in Person County. And so I go home and I'm sitting there and I'm in this meeting. And I'll be honest with y'all, I almost cried because 2 years ago, the Person County Democratic Party would have never had someone outside the public library in Person County waving a pride flag around like crazy. And they did. And I was shocked because I drove up and I had a tear come down my face because I saw 40, 50 people out there with pride flags, signs, and they were all like out there showing their support before they were going to go into this meeting. And I was like, God, y'all were out here early. Oh my God. Which is what Shelly's going to be saying about all of y'all when y'all get out there and help her knock doors this year in Brunswick County, right? She's like, oh my God, all y'all came out for this. But I was so surprised, and I walked into this library meeting, and we sat down, and we started to go through public comment, and the board voted to stall. Basically, they voted to postpone. What am I trying to think of? Table. God, thank you, Richard. To table this until October 16th. And I sat there, and then they opened up the floor for public comment after they took that vote, right? And they had the guy in there, the pastor, because of course this book banning started out in Person County from 18 pastors of the alt-right Christian groups in my county decided that they were going to come together and they hated the books that were being read at story time in Person County, this being one of them. And all the pastors get up there and they go, well, we're not for censorship though. And I said, well, what in the hell are we all here for then? If y'all don't believe in censorship, then why on earth are y'all trying to get a book taken off the shelves then? And it was the interaction that I had with them, and you know, all my Democrats in the room, they're getting so heated because they're all they're saying just the stupidest shit, to be honest with y'all, and quite frank. I sat there and I listened to some of them and I was like, y'all gotta be kidding me. Like, this is where we're at. And I was laughing, and I saw everybody around me get so angry and riled up, and I looked at them and I said, y'all, calm down. Just like take a breather, Because it is angering, right? What's going on right now? Everything can make you so mad and make you want to give up and make you just want to toss it to the side and never look at it again. And I looked at them and I was like, we gotta laugh. Because this man, this pastor of this church was up in there describing this book of the Rainbow Parade, and he was talking about how people were being gagged in the book, and he was describing all of these pictures of someone's naked behind in this book. And I sat there and I looked at them and I said, wow, this pastor really read that book closely, didn't he? Man, he could describe every inch of that person. And I was like, that's a little more concerning, I think, than the Rainbow Parade being read in story time is, don't y'all? And everybody in the room just started laughing. And I said, I truly just believe that's what we got to do sometimes. Is we got to have a hearty laugh. And we got to be able to come back together and say, you know, this shit is crazy that we're in right now. But we're going to come together and we're going to make it out of it. And we're going to fight back against it. Because that's what Democrats have done throughout this state. That is why North Carolina right now, y'all, does not look like Florida. Just to be real with you. We're close. We're close. But that's why we don't. It's because Democrats have gotten up around this state and said, hell to the no, not North Carolina. We're not doing that. Yeah. And we're going to fight like hell in 2023 and 2024 and every election cycle after that.
Preach, sister, preach.
We are. Until we take back North Carolina. I don't care how long it takes. And I tell people I don't care how many elections we got to lose to get there either, to be honest with y'all. Because we're from places where we don't expect to lose or win elections, right? We kind of expect to lose them most times. And I said, but the point is, rural people, we always put up a fight. We're always resilient as hell, and we always dig in our heels and push back against extremism, against Republican oppression, and against what's going on right now in North Carolina. Because we know what our state used to be. The beacon of the South, the place where progress came from, and that gave us the party of public education, the party of fighting for human rights, and the party that is going to advance our state forward, not backwards, right? So I want y'all to know, Brunswick County, I'm here in the trenches with you. I will get down with you anytime, and let's get dirty this year, to be honest with you, because I'm telling you, Republicans already have in some ways, and I think that we've got to make sure that we are there to fight them in every way that we possibly can, and I'm going to work really, really hard this year to make sure that all of you know that the state party is there, that we care, and that we're here to make sure that Republicans don't have what they do right now, which is a whole hell of a lot of power that they do not deserve. So, thank you all so much. I think I went over my time, but thank you, Shelley. I really appreciate it. And I'll be around for questions.